Why do many countries seem less afraid of the United States? In the past, when the US imposed tariffs, he added them without explanation. No one dared to oppose the US. The US wouldn't delay for 90 days. As the world's hegemon, his prestige and credibility are more important than his life. He would not tolerate any challenges to his authority. But now, although the EU has also delayed for 90 days, they continue to be soft as usual. However, they have imposed reciprocal tariffs with the US. In the Middle East, the Houthis have raised the banner of anti-hegemony, fighting against coalition forces. The US has even deployed 2 carrier strike groups to respond. What does the US say? The EU does nothing without any leeway. The US does whatever it wants. That's it. The Houthis have no room to negotiate. They might not even need US intervention. The local princes in the Middle East have already taught Yemen a lesson on behalf of the US. One must remember, who dared to use missiles against the US or its forces would have vanished from the map that day. The US even claimed that aircraft carriers are its mobile territory. Whoever attacks an aircraft carrier is declaring war on the US. But now, someone has used missiles against a US aircraft carrier, and the US can only jump ship claiming it missed. That doesn't count as a declaration of war. Weapons purchased by Saudi Arabia were intercepted by the Houthis mid-route. I ask, was this intentional or accidental? Why is this happening now? The reason is simple. The East is rising. The East promotes global technological equality. Whenever there's a breakthrough in weaponry, the East updates its technology accordingly. For example, drones or hypersonic missiles. While the US had no hypersonic missiles, the Houthis developed a Palestinian II-type hypersonic missile. Ask them where their super wind tunnel came from, and they'll say, it's all thanks to the blessings of true pearls. Hypersonic missiles hitting aircraft carriers is like a father dealing with a son. The US has no defense capabilities against them. For instance, the Dongfeng 27 has accurately hit targets from 5,000 kilometers away, shocking the world with its speed. Since the rise of the East, it has either been anti-hegemonic or on the road to anti-hegemony. For example, the current international territorial sea distance has changed from 12 nautical miles. Many are unaware that in 1949, according to maritime agreements, this distance was only 3 nautical miles. At that time, our artillery range was already more than 3 nautical miles. Instructors noticed that other countries feared offending the West and hesitated to voice opposition. They asserted that within artillery range should set the territorial sea at 12 nautical miles. At that time, some still opposed it, arguing how could decisions made by the West be changed. But the instructor responded directly that Western decisions are not holy edicts. How could they dictate our actions? If imperialists want to fight, we are not afraid. On the Korean battlefield, they had already matched wits. Later, the US came twice and was driven away by the East both times. Within artillery range, US aircraft carriers entering 12 nautical miles would be targeted by artillery. From then on, the Bohai Sea became internal waters. Safety was further guaranteed. Many countries later saw that the East's territorial sea was 12 nautical miles and strongly demanded to revise their own territorial seas to 12 nautical miles. Ultimately, in the 1982 United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, the new maritime law stipulated that countries have the right to establish territorial seas of up to 12 nautical miles. If international law doesn't align with the East's interests, then they will change international law. Dignity lies only at the edge of the sword. Truth lies only within artillery range. When the East succeeds, other countries will naturally follow suit. Thus, it becomes clear that the US is increasingly hesitant to intervene directly, leading to global allies reading the US in their own ways. Big Brother, are you still capable or not? If you can, then you can. If not, then not. What does it mean to take a break? Learn from the Soviet Union's strategic airlift, leading Ukraine and Europe to victory. Instead of heading to the dining table. The foundation of U.S. hegemony is the long-held belief that U.S. forces can militarily crush a country. Once, the U.S. claimed it would annihilate the Iraqi Air Force with a pack of laundry detergent. That was proof. When the EU introduced the euro, the U.S. bombed Yugoslavia. This caused the euro's global status to plummet. Gaddafi of Libya, Saddam of Iraq were both powerful figures in Africa and the Middle East. Yet both failed to succeed under U.S. control. This is the true meaning of distant but must be eradicated. Such confidence in the U.S. military is more threatening than the military itself. As long as an aircraft carrier approaches, the opponent will surrender. Without a fight, they'll yield to the U.S. forces. In that era, small countries like Iran and Libya, even the East and Russia, had to bow down. For example, in 1999, during the Kosovo War, there was little energy left to retaliate. Russia had even less capability. After the Soviet Union collapsed, NATO has continued to expand eastward. He knew that Ukraine was going to join NATO. He couldn't hold back. He took action. But fortunately, the U.S. had exhausted most of its national power through 2 wars. The 10-year Iraq War cost $13 trillion. The U.S. military suffered 50,000 casualties. Although the U.S. consolidated the oil-dollar hegemony, it was meaningless. At that time, no one dared to challenge U.S. authority. The 20-year Afghanistan war was even more absurd. The U.S. gained nothing. The U.S. spent $2.3 trillion. This amount could have paid every Afghan $100,000. Despite spending $2.3 trillion, Afghanistan did not become the most pro-American country. Any country has limited power. Using military force without gain inevitably harms national fortune. The U.S. is no exception. The power of the U.S. is declining. Opposition to the U.S. will rise. Russia has issued challenges to the U.S. Since 2021, Russia has grown bolder. They openly state that the U.S. has no right to speak to China. They argue from a position of strength. Even 30 years ago, such statements were unthinkable. China does not accept this. Their diplomatic language is precise. If they dare to say this, it reflects the U.S.'s diminished strength. U.S. imperialists are arrogant. In situations where they disregard reason, they certainly will not reason. If they negotiate, it's because they have no choice. The actions of the U.S. confirm this. They frequently seek to negotiate with Russia. But Russia will not agree. After the 6th generation of leaders, the U.S. has lost influence in East Asia. The U.S. has abandoned the first island chain and retreated to the second island chain in Guam. There are even voices within the U.S. military suggesting a retreat of 7,000 kilometers. They propose abandoning the first and second island chains. Russia has challenged U.S. hegemony. But the U.S. cannot counter Russia. Instead, it retreats. The same applies to Russia. The Russia-Ukraine conflict has lasted 3 years. The U.S. has not engaged directly against Russia and has allowed Russia to gain the upper hand. Russia has engaged with Ukraine, supported by NATO. The result is that the U.S. invites Russia to share Europe. This shocking act has stunned Europe. It has also shocked the world. Countries far from Russia realize they are not threatened. However, countries close to Russia find NATO cannot protect them. In this case, what is the significance of NATO's existence? What right does the U.S. have to dictate Europe? Countries that have offended the U.S. are doing just fine. Why should they follow the U.S.? Throughout history, countries have no feelings for each other. It is all about interests. Whoever wins, they support. U.S. hegemony began to decline the moment it dared not confront Russia. Perhaps the U.S. has one last battle left. But the question arises. Where should the balance be struck? Finally, if you like this video, don't forget to follow. This way you'll see the next update as soon as it is released.